Not that much happened over the weekend, right? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. My name is Bryson Carver, and I'm coming to you live from the beautiful state of Tennessee, the home of your SEC champion, Tennessee Volunteers, who will be representing the great conference, the SEC, the Southeastern Conference, in March Madness as the 3 seed. I must say we got screwed over. No ifs, ands, or buts. Got screwed over as a 3 seed. We should have been the top 2 seed in the tournament. There's no question about it. It's ridiculous. Speaking of the March Madness bracket, I'll discuss that. But it was an eventful sports weekend, right? You know, you got March Madness. You've got Kevin Durant, by the way. He scored 53 points last night. It's one short of his career high. You had the Lakers got crushed again. You had Kevin Garnett. The other Kevin Garnett got his number retired by the Celtics. Outside of that, not much happened. Tom Brady's back. Yeah. Tom Brady's back. As his favorite rapper, Jay-Z says,
allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Tom.
Yep. That's it. He's back. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., as a famous journalist calls him. So I'm starting the show with that. So I was surprised, just like all of you were. Stunned. I was just laying around doing some work for something for the podcast, and I'm going to reveal to you guys later on. Stay tuned. But I'm just laying around, relaxing, looking at some of the trade news going on, watching some NBA basketball, some of the last few college basketball games, getting ready, for the brackets to be revealed, right? We're all getting ready. Many of you, I'm sure, have filled out your brackets. It's a fun time of year in sports. And I get a notification from Adam Schefter that says that Tom Brady's back. It says Tom Brady's back, ... I'm like, So I tap it. It's a tweet from Tom Brady. And Tom Brady, who's had his initial retirement news broken by Adam Schefter, among other sources, Chris Mortensen, followed up by guys like Ian Rappaport, Jay Glazer, all great sources. And of course, they were right. Tom announces retirement just 3 days later. Tom's tweet read, "These past 2 months, I've realized my place is still in the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates and I love my supportive family that make it all possible. I'm coming back from my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business. LFG. Let's effing go." From the man himself. So the Bucs are Super Bowl contenders now. They're back in it. No question about it. It was funny. I was on a live stream yesterday when my guy John, shout out to him, Fan Perspective Podcast. He's in the comments a lot here. We were talking about, and I briefly mentioned, hey, could Tampa Bay be a trade destination for Deshaun Watson? I'm like, okay. I mean, you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin's coming back, and you lost some guys in that offensive line, but defensively, you're still going to be really good. Levante David, last I checked, coming back. Devin White, last I checked, is one of the 5 best linebackers in football. You got the makings. I said if they got Jimmy Garoppolo, they could win the division. They're a Super Bowl contender, no question about it. They will lose some guys. Obviously, Ali Marpet retired. They've lost other offensive linemen. But I think when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today, and you look at Tom Brady, let's start with Tom. Because it goes back to kind of what I said when he initially retired. And I thought he was done. Like I've said in the show, I know Grady Edwards, shout out to him. He's in the comments all the time on the show. And he suggested, I think on Friday's show, he said, what % chance do you give Brady of coming back and going to San Francisco? I guess I could say I was half right, half wrong on that one, maybe, because he didn't go to San Francisco. He's coming back to Tampa. But I'm sitting back there watching this, and I'm like, oh, he's done. He's got the new movie come out with Jane Fonda, right, among other notable actresses. I'm like, he's moving on. He's got the Brady brand, and he's got these business ventures and his production company. I'm sure he and Giselle have some other business things going on, and they do. Like, all those things are true. But it took Tom not even 6 weeks, 40 days. He's like, yeah, this retirement thing isn't all it's cut out to be. And so he's back. But I remember I said two things on the show when he retired. Number one, if he had stayed retired, I've said this multiple times. Anyone who watches the show knows this. I said this upcoming football season was going to be the hardest of Tom Brady's life. Because after 22 years in the NFL, right? That's a long time. That's like, if we're lucky to live a long time, that's like 25% of your life. Plus, you go back to 4 years in college, 4 years in high school. So we're talking 30 plus years of playing football. That's all he's done every single fall for 30 straight years. We know he loves the game. The drive, the love of the game was not the reason that Tom Brady initially retired. But he said, 40 days, I'm back. I can't take this retirement thing anymore. I got to scratch that competitive itch. And I think I thought at least, had he not played this football season, he looked around the NFL and been like, okay, better than him, definitely better than that guy. I'm better than him. Mahomes is really good, and that Burrow kid's all right. I'm better than him. I'm better than that guy Rodgers in Green Bay. I'm better than just about every quarterback in the league. And so that would have driven him crazy. Well, now he doesn't have to worry about that because he's going to be playing those guys. He's going to be playing Mahomes at home. He's going to be playing Burrow at home. He's going to be playing Rodgers at home. He's going to be playing guys like Lamar Jackson. He's going to be playing Dak on the road. Right? So, he's going to be playing the elite quarterbacks in the NFL this upcoming season. So the challenge is absolutely there. And the second thing I said about Tom Brady, and I said this the Friday before the initial retirement reports came out. I said, gosh, it is awfully weird that a guy who for the last 4 or 5 years talked about, I want to retire after my age 45 season. I want to play till I'm 45 years old. I wanted to get to 40. Then I got to 40. I'm like, yeah, I can still play. I want to get to 45. And so I'm like, okay, he's 44. He just finished second for MVP. He had probably the third greatest individual season of his career. We all know clearly he can still play. We saw he played in the second half in that game against the Rams in the playoff game when they almost came back from 27-3 down. I'm like, it's awfully weird that he's still playing at the level he's playing at. Almost got to the NFC Championship game back-to-back years. And he's just going to walk away before he turns 45? I was like, this is weird. Like, I don't get this. Like, this is not like Tom. He stepped away. I'm like, okay, if it's about family, focusing more on business, I'm like, hey, listen, I don't have a bad word to say. But he said, I can't do it. Because think about it. His family, we're not in quarantine anymore. His family's not just going to be there all the time. Yeah, he's got his business interests. I'm sure he's took the kids to school and this and that. But in the middle of the day when it's, 1:30 in the afternoon, or when he wakes up, it's, 6:30, 7 in the morning. Let's say it's when Tom Brady gets up. He probably gets up before that, but let's just say for the sake of argument, 6:30, 7 o'clock. And he wakes up and he's not working. He's probably working out, but he's not working out to play football. He's not watching film, which he said on numerous occasions. He loves watching film, which is nobody loves watching film. Tom Brady does. But to wake up and be like, whoa, what do I do? I got a lot of free time. Like, what do I? There's a lot of hours in the day. I've got my business interests. I can focus on those, the Brady brand and 199 Productions, and Giselle and I have some business interest, I'm sure, crypto and all that. What do I do with the rest of my day? And I know for a fact I could still play in this league, and not just play in this league, but at a very, very, very high level. So I think that was where Tom's mind went. He said, okay, look, I can still play. I've learned that in less than 3 weeks, I've got a lot of free time on my hands. I might as well be doing something. And I know Tampa can compete for a Super Bowl. Now, to be clear, Tampa's not going to be as good as they were the last 2 years. They're darn sure not going to be as good as they were in 2020. And in 2021, obviously, you had a number of injuries. You had the Antonio Brown saga. You had injuries to the offensive line, which really hurt them in that playoff loss to the Rams, and this and that and the other. They're probably going to lose Jason Pierre-Paul. They're probably going to lose Ndamukong Suh. So there's some holes in this roster. But they'll address them, the offensive line. That I'm sure they'll address that in the NFL draft, as well as give them a little bit more depth at the receiving core now that Antonio Brown's gone, and I believe Scotty Miller's gone. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are one of the best duos in the league, but you want a little bit more depth, right? In all likelihood, this means Rob Gronkowski's coming back. I cannot imagine why he would leave now that Tom's coming back, but that's what it comes down to. And John is in the comments. He said he was really unsure. They reported too early. Yeah, and I got to say, look, Tom Brady surely cut off whoever leaked that information to Schefter or to Chris Mortensen and all the insiders that reported it out. Okay, because he told somebody and somebody told somebody else, and then all of a sudden we all know, okay, Tom Brady's going to retire. My man Ryan Flowers is in the comments. My man, Clutch Sports Talk Podcast. He says, not surprised Brady came back. I was shocked he retired after losing in the divisional round. Absolutely. And one of the things, I think maybe what should have been one of the giveaways for the initial retirement I said on the show was that, Brady on the podcast, the Let's Go podcast with Jim Gray, is talking about he's satisfied and all this. And like basically it's the end. And I'm like, I've never heard Tom Brady say satisfied after a divisional round loss, but I think he sat with it and he's thinking, gosh, everything that went against us this season. And if Matthew Stafford doesn't complete 2 passes to Cooper Kupp, let's just say we win the coin toss. I think we all assume if the Buccaneers win that coin toss, the momentum they had, they're probably going to go down the field and score, just like, Mahomes and the Chiefs did against the Bills. So Tom's like, nothing went our way in the last 4 to 5 games of the season. We had a major drama with the player. We had injuries galore. We fell behind 27-3 at home to a superior team, a team that went on to win the Super Bowl. And also, I think something else too. Tom Brady is like, okay, the vast majority of elite quarterbacks are now in the AFC. And folks, I've said on the show, I think there's 2 contenders legit, I think they could get to the Super Bowl in the NFC. I said there's 2. Rams, obviously, and 49ers. I don't stop at Green Bay. Stop, okay? It's going to be wash, rinse, repeat. Rodgers is probably going to win another MVP or something, and they'll get the contract thing worked out with Devontae Adams. They'll go 13-4, get the number 1 seed, and they'll go immediately in the playoffs, probably to the 49ers. Quarterback coming back, obviously. You've got Cooper Kupp, who's the best receiver in football. Robert Woods will be back off an injury. Van Jefferson. We'll see if they retain Odell Beckham Jr. If he wants to take a pay cut to stay, obviously that just helps them, all the more. You've got Tyler Higbee defensively. You've got Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd, Jalen Ramsey. Rams are set. And obviously we know how great of a coach Sean McVay is and how great a GM Les Snead is and how great an owner that Stan Kroenke is. And then in San Francisco, a guy in Jimmy Garoppolo, who in the 2 playoff wins against the Cowboys and the Packers did not throw a touchdown pass. And they were that close to getting to the Super Bowl. If he doesn't give that game away after going 3 for 9 for 33 yards and a pick in the 4th quarter, 49ers probably get to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay? So, you know me. Love Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. Love what he's going to do this year. I think he's going to have an outstanding season this year and give the 49ers possibly a shot to win the NFC West. Remember, the 49ers have a 3rd place schedule. Arizona had a better record than them. So they're really set up to do some big things this year. But from Tom's perspective, he's like, okay, Deshaun Watson's probably come to my division. But regardless if he goes to the Saints, and definitely if he goes to Carolina, I've got the better personnel. I've got the better coaching staff. So Deshaun will give us trouble. Whoever he's with will probably split, go 1-1. And after that, we'll blow through Atlanta. Tom Brady, I don't think Tom Brady's ever lost to the Atlanta Falcons in his career. We know their recent history. But whoever Deshaun doesn't go to, they'll sweep. They'll sweep the Falcons, and they'll go 1-1 with whoever Deshaun Watson ends up with, if he indeed goes to either the Saints or the Panthers. Now, again, Tampa's schedule's tough. But I think from Tom's perspective, he's thinking, okay, 2013, we lost in the playoffs. The following year, we won the Super Bowl. 2015, we lost the playoffs. The following year, we won the Super Bowl. 2017, we got to the Super Bowl and lost. The next year, we won the Super Bowl. 2019, went one and done in the playoffs. Won the Super Bowl the following year. Last year, lost in the playoffs. Will that trend continue? We'll see. We'll see. I think he's got as good a shot as he's ever had. Certainly in a weak NFC. So make that 3 contenders in the NFC. The Rams, the defending champs, the Niners, and now Tampa Bay's back in it. I thought the only shot for Tampa to get back in contention was to get Deshaun Watson. But that's off the table now. Tom Brady isn't exactly a bad consolation prize, if I do say so myself. So Tom Brady shook up, not the sports world, he shook up the world yesterday. This is the sports story of the year. I thought the Aaron Rodgers story when he signed the big, or reportedly, who knows what the terms of the contract are now, but he announced he's coming back to Green Bay. I'm like, okay, this is the biggest story of the day. And then Russell Wilson tops that. And I'm like, okay, this is the biggest story this week. Nothing's going to top Russell Wilson to Denver. Yeah, it got passed up like 5 days later. I love the NFL. Love it. And John, this is the comments here. I just read the report too, John. He said, Watson just said no to Indy. Actually, I don't think that is how it played out. If I can pull it up here from Schefter, because there's free agencies going on right now, basically, guys. I mean, it's legal tampering, so all these contracts have been negotiated so quickly, mysteriously. But okay. Watson did, because remember, Deshaun Watson, like we talked about, John, and as everybody out there knows, he does have a no trade clause. So if the Texans say, we're going to trade you to the, I don't know, think of a bad team, the Giants, okay, we're going to trade you to the Giants. Deshaun Watson can say, no, I'm not going there, and they can't trade him because he's got no trade clauses in his contract. But the report from Schefter is Houston has declined Indianapolis's attempt to speak with Deshaun Watson per source. Houston comfortable in trading Watson, just not in the AFC South. And that's why I said, like, when people are talking about, the Colts are in it, I'm like, there's no way the Texans are going to trade him to a team they're going to play twice a year. There's no way. I don't know what the Colts are going to do now. I'm going to talk about Mitchell Trubisky later in the show, going to Pittsburgh. Now Trubisky's off the table. I really like Gardner Minshew. I think he and Baker are kind of on the same level, but that's not going to help you contend for Super Bowl. So, but then again, Jalen Hurts, who we think is inferior to Carson Wentz, I think we all agree on that. He got the same Eagles team to the playoffs that Carson Wentz won 3 games with. So, I mean, a 40-year-old Phillip Rivers won more games with the Colts than Wentz did with the Colts. So, I'm just saying, Minshew might not be the worst thing in the world to happen to the Colts. They won't be a contender if they get Gardner Minshew, but they could be a threat to get in the playoffs. But the bottom line to all this, Tom Brady is coming back. Wow. We asked the question around I guess it was week 4 of last season.
Can Tom Brady play until 50 years old?
I said no initially. I'm done guessing. I'm done guessing. I'm not even going to try. Not even going to try. But the bottom line is Tom Brady is coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe he is under contract for 1 more year, if I'm not mistaken. But as it stands today, March 14th, Pi Day, there are 3 teams. The first digit of Pi is, or at least the full number involved with Pi before, all the other digits after that. That's how many teams are contending for a Super Bowl in the NFC. Rams, Niners, and now Tampa. Packers will be a great regular season team. They'll go 1 and done in the playoffs once again, and the Cowboys will do the exact same thing just a round earlier. But this is earth-shattering news, man. I did not see this coming. Like it took me a second to just be like, okay, he's actually coming back. Like I'm telling y'all, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But that's Tom Brady for you. Don't bet against this man. Wouldn't it be the most Tom Brady thing ever? Because really, he pulled a Michael Jordan. He said, "I'm back." And wouldn't it be fitting if we all thought, okay, Tom Brady's done. We can finally move on from Tom Brady. And when it's all said and done in Glendale, Arizona on February the 12th, I think that's, February the 12th of 2023, that it is Tom Brady for the 8th time holding the Vince Lombardi trophy. That would be, he would absolutely, I think he would absolutely retire. My gut tells me this is it. The fact that he already did retire the first time, I think this is probably it. He's under contract for one more year with Tampa. He talked about playing to 45. Well, he's going to be 45 in August. So this is his age 45 season. And if they win a Super Bowl, he's done. I think he's done. Because, 8 rings, man. Like, that's, you beat Michael Jordan by 2. You quadruple Peyton Manning in rings. What else can you say after that? What's he got to prove? John just says, thought it was fake too. LOL. I had to check a few times. Yeah, I'm like, I get the notification from Schefter says Tom Brady's back. I'm like, back what? Like, what do you mean by back? Because Schefter occasionally will joke around there sometimes. I know he pulled a prank on some Seattle fans last year, acting like Russell Wilson had gotten traded last year, and instead he made like a draft joke. But I'm like, oh, Schefter's messing around. He's just, nope. Wow. Story of the year in sports. I'm not real sure how you're going to top that. I really don't know how you top that to save my life. But man, Tom Brady is back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But let's move on to, gosh, we can't take one weekend off. We can't take one weekend off without talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I do my last show of the week on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just 48 hours. That's all we're asking. 48 hours, and we have to talk about the Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
We can't get away from this. Okay, so Amari Cooper was traded from the Cowboys to the Browns. First of all, as somebody who, I'm the weirdest fan ever here. I always say I support the Cowboys. I wouldn't consider myself a Cowboy fan. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm a Warriors fan. I'm a Vols fan. I am not a Cowboys fan because I think it's a poorly run franchise. I only support them because I love the quarterback, Dak Prescott. And for that matter, I love Micah Parsons as well. He's phenomenal. But the Cowboys, here's my takeaway as somebody who supports the Cowboys. This is a good trade for Dallas because they got something in return for Amari Cooper. Because the initial reports were they're just going to release him. So I'm like, gosh, I'd like to. Could you get something? Now, would you like to got more than a 5th or 6th rounder? Yeah, you would have. But those picks, no disrespect to who the Cowboys take or trade the pick in for, but those picks will, in all likelihood, be completely useless. But they got something. They got something for Amari Cooper. And over the weekend, they also signed yesterday, like minutes before the Tom Brady news broke, Schefter reported that the Cowboys had signed Michael Gallup to a 5-year deal. And I like it. It does concern me for this year because he's coming off an ACL tear. But once he gets back fully healthy, he gets his explosion back. Cam Akers tore his Achilles in July and was back by the last game of the regular season in early January. So with today's science and technology that they're using for these surgeries, coming up with new stuff to help these athletes recover quicker and get back to full strength at a higher clip, I think Michael Gallup will be back by opening day, hopefully. But for the Cowboys, I think it's the right move. I said it last week when people were like, oh my gosh, you cannot get rid of Amari Cooper. I said, sure you can. Sure you can. First of all, a guy who's making in excess of $20 million. So we're talking number 1 receiver money. This is what the stars get paid in this league. You're telling me he had 2 100-yard games last year and he didn't just have under 1,000 yards. He had under 900 yards last season in 15 games. So he missed 2 games. He played 15. You're a number 1 receiver. I don't care if you missed 2 games. You should at least get over 1,000. At least. If you're a number 1 receiver, at least. And so my issue with Amari Cooper was always, what guy am I getting? Am I getting the guy who has, 10 catches for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Eagles? back in 2018? Or am I getting the guy who gets shut out, 0 catches for 0 yards against the New England Patriots, getting shut down by Stephon Gilmore? Or shut down by Marshawn Lattimore? Or having 2 catches for 26 yards? You don't know what you're getting from him. It's a mystery. And it makes no sense, too, because he might be the best route runner in the league. Devontae Adams is up there. DeAndre Hopkins is up there. I think Julio still at this stage of his career. He's up there. Like, what's going on? This mentality. That's why the Raiders traded him in 2018. That's why the Cowboys are trading him now. And so, for Dallas, I'm not saying they got better because of this trade, but it does not make them significantly worse. Don't let these people, Amari Cooper made Dak. Yeah, in 2018. But what about those games in 2019 and this past season where Amari Cooper was nowhere to be found? 2 out of 15 games, 2 100-yard performances. And he didn't have one after Halloween. So November, no 100-yard games. December, no 100-yard games. January, no 100-yard games. So this was the obvious move by the Cowboys. You clear up, you free cap space. Now, I thought free cap space was going to mean you were going to keep Gallup and Cedric Wilson. Well, Cedric Wilson said bye to Dallas. He signed a 3-year deal to go to the Miami Dolphins, which I guess the Dolphins won the bidding war, but I don't know if you're Cedric Wilson. You go from Dak Prescott to Tua? Like, that's a pretty significant downgrade. But hey, if it's about the money, I get it. You know, go get paid while you can. But I mean, that hurts the Cowboys. But for Dallas, on the other hand, we're about to see. CeeDee Lamb, are you a number 1 receiver? Are you a true number 1 receiver? He had over 1,000 yards last year. If I'm not mistaken, he might have had over 1,000 yards his rookie year. CeeDee Lamb could play. I loved him out of Oklahoma. But when I look at the fact that just a few picks after him, Justin Jefferson was taken by the Vikings, and I think without a shadow of a doubt, Justin Jefferson's one of the 5 best receivers in football today. He's phenomenal. He came right into the league and started dominating. He's putting up like Odell numbers. We know the numbers Odell put up his first 3 years in the NFL. They're ridiculous. That's what Justin Jefferson's doing. CeeDee Lamb hasn't done that. I like him, but he struggles with the drops. I criticize Amari Cooper for his route running. CeeDee Lamb can't run routes like that. Oftentimes, he would get the number 2 corner, and he couldn't separate. So, it's put up or shut up time now. And it's probably good timing because this is his 3rd year. The Cowboys, after this season, not only will they have to make a decision as to whether they'll exercise the 5th-year team option because he was a first-round pick, but also, is this the guy we're going to give the bag to? Is he a true member of that number 88 club? Drew Pearson, Hall of Fame. And Michael Irvin, best receiver in Cowboys history, Hall of Fame. Dez Bryant, I believe he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. All wore 88. CeeDee Lamb's wearing 88. And it's not really fair to him that the Cowboys forced him to wear number 88. I think that's kind of ridiculous. He wanted to wear number 10 because, DeAndre Hopkins was one of his favorite players. So DeAndre Hopkins wears 10. That's what CeeDee Lamb wanted to wear. It probably would have been better for him in terms of taking a little bit of pressure off his back, as if playing for the Cowboys isn't enough pressure. Now you put the 2 digits on his chest and on his back. That's a lot. But we're going to see. Is CeeDee Lamb that guy? I've always liked Michael Gallup. Honest to God, swear. Loved him out of Colorado. I said, okay, that's a good pick for Dallas because he's a big-bodied receiver, good hands, is a good deep threat. I wish Kellen Moore would use him more because he is a good deep threat, and Dak is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the entire National Football League at throwing deep balls by the numbers. He was tied with Aaron Rodgers at a 59% completion percentage on deep passes down the field. So use that, Kellen Moore. Use that to Michael Gallup. But CeeDee Lamb, we're going to see, because I have my doubts. The good news is about losing Cedric Wilson is that now, look, we know this. What's the easiest position to draft in football today? It's the wide receiver. Why is that? Well, number one, they're trained at a younger age, obviously to run the routes that they run, but also used to receivers couldn't go over the middle because you had Brian Urlacher there, you had Ray Lewis there. You had some men in the middle of the field. Well, now because of some of the rule changes, receivers love going over the middle of the field. Cooper Kupp, feels like that's where he got most of his catches, was over the middle of the field. So you can find a receiver in this league easier, I think, than any position. We know quarterbacks, finding a true franchise quarterback is very hard to do. Finding an elite running back, how many elite running backs are there in the NFL? Not many. Even tight ends can be a little tough to find if you want to find a guy on the level of a Travis Kelce, a George Kittle, a Mark Andrews, a Darren Waller. There's not that many guys in the league. There's a lot of elite receivers in the National Football League, without a doubt. So the good news is for the Cowboys, maybe you spend a second-round pick on a receiver. I think you should spend a first-rounder on either a linebacker or, preferably, in my opinion, a guard. But you could draft a receiver in the second round, third round. That's third round's actually where they got Michael Gallup. So, but that's my takeaway on the, and for the Browns, on the other hand, getting Amari Cooper. Look, Odell's obviously gone last year. Baker couldn't make it work with Odell. Odell goes to the Rams, and, all he does is help them win a Super Bowl. And then they released Jarvis Landry today. We know he's going to be pursued heavily by some of the better contending teams. He's a great leader. He's a reliable pass catcher, good route runner, can still run. Jarvis Landry's still a really good receiver in the National Football League. But I think when you look at, how they've been able to, put all these pieces around Baker and it still doesn't work, why on earth would I think Amari Cooper is going to change that? Amari Cooper couldn't make it work with Derek Carr and Dak Prescott. Am I supposed to think he's going to make it work with Baker Mayfield? Come on. No. And it's kind of scary now for the Browns that he is now their unquestioned number one receiver. Without a doubt. But I'm telling you, like the trade for the Cowboys, because you got something in return. You clear cap space. You get a guy who's, let's be real, wasn't that good of a locker room guy. You get him out of the building. Wasn't a cancer. Wasn't like Antonio Brown or something, but, kind of distant, aloof, kind of a loner on the bench during games. That's one thing I always loved about Dez. Dez was talking constantly. And people are like, oh, Dez Bryant, he can't be. He's always asking for the ball. I'm like, love it. Because Dez is like, give me the ball. I'm going to make something happen. I want the ball. I want to be involved. I want to be a part of this football game. You see all these mic'd ups, where Dez is wearing a mic and he's going on the sideline, hyping up his teammates or talking to coaches. I want the ball. I want the ball. Could that go over the top sometimes? Absolutely. But at the bottom of it for Dez was passion. He loved the game. I'm not saying Amari Cooper doesn't love the game. He's probably just a quiet guy. But you don't see that same fire that burns in Dez Bryant. You don't see that same fire burn in Amari Cooper. And I think that's part of the reason the production wasn't there this season. And frankly, last year and the year before that, after he signed the big contract. I'm sorry, he signed a big contract after 2019, not after 2018. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be fun. But, looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, sorry, I'm just looking at some of the free agent news. By the way, J.C. Jackson to the Chargers. How about that deal for the Chargers? You want to talk about bolstering your defense. Respect to the L.A. Chargers, because they're saying to compete now with Kansas City, we know what they are, and now Denver with Russell Wilson, we got to have the firepower to match it. Okay, they re-signed Mike Williams. We know they got Herbert and company and guys like Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen and guys like that. But they're saying we got to make it as tough as humanly possible to stop these two guys. So what do? They went out and traded for Khalil Mack. What did they do today? They gave J.C. Jackson of the Patriots a huge contract. By the way, I'm telling you, some coaches are so rigid. Bill Belichick. You've got one of the 5 best corners in football in your building. And you just let him walk. Just let him walk. J.C. Jackson, how old is let me see how old J.C. Jackson is. He's probably not 25, 26 years old. J.C. Jackson is 26 years old. There's a 5-year deal, so that'll take him till he's 31 years of age. He's got a great nose for the football. He's a great cover guy. Why on earth would you let J.C. Jackson just walk? Well, the same reason he let Chandler Jones walk, and the same reason he let, you guessed it, Tom Brady walk. Because the system is more important than the players. My philosophy, the coaching is more important than the players. Okay, see how far Mac Jones takes you this year. That's all I'm saying. But moving on to Pittsburgh Steelers, they were in a real quarterback mystery, to say the least, as to what they were going to do with that position. Obviously, Big Ben retired, and we know that guys like Russell Wilson, okay, they're off the market, and Aaron Rodgers is staying in Green Bay. And Deshaun Watson, there were no rumors. I suggested Deshaun Watson should consider Pittsburgh, but right now it's looking like it's going to be either the Saints or the Panthers. So the Steelers, look, there was no way they were going to move forward with Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins. Like, that's not you've got to play Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and I'm not a fan of Baker Mayfield, but that Browns roster is, even without Jarvis Landry and Odell, is stacked. Stacked. So you got to play that 3 times, or 6 total games. You better have a star power quarterback, or at least competence at quarterback. And that's what they got today. They got competence. Mitch Trubisky signed to a 2-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, I think it's a good deal for Pittsburgh, because if none of the big name quarterbacks were on the market, Pittsburgh's goal had to be kind of the same as this year. Okay, look, we've got a great culture. Our roster is still really good. Our defensive line is one of the best in the league. We kind of had the defensive player of the year in TJ Watt. Cam Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, got some good weapons offensively. So the Steelers are like, okay, we know we're not going to get a guy as good as Burrow or Lamar. And for that matter, maybe even Baker. But can we get competence? Can we get steady at the quarterback position? That's what they got. They got Mitchell Trubisky. Last year he was the backup for the Buffalo Bills behind Josh Allen, so he kind of got, in a lot of ways, a year off. Josh Allen never got hurt last year, at least injured enough to miss games. And, people are just trashing this move right now, which I personally don't get. Because I'm not I was never a Mitch Trubisky fan out of North Carolina. I thought he was way overdrafted at number 2 overall. But when you look at him, you say, okay, he had good coaching in Chicago. Stop with the Matt Nagy hate, guys. Stop it. Okay, Matt Nagy's the next coach. He's going to get a job next year, and he should. I think he's really good. But Mitch Trubisky had a good roster, or at least a decent roster, a great defense, and a solid offensive roster. Allen Robinson and Tariq Cohen and guys like that. Yeah, Matt Nagy. He was in the same division as Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford at the time. 2018, the Bears won the division. Right, a couple of years later, he got benched for Nick Foles, and then Nick Foles sucked, and so they benched him, Nick Foles for Mitch Trubisky, and he took him to the playoffs. They lost to the Saints, didn't look good in doing so, but for what it's worth, in the loaded NFC, Mitch Trubisky got the Bears to the playoffs twice. So, for a guy, Mike Tomlin, who has never had a losing season, this is a good guy to keep that streak alive. Give me Mitch Trubisky any day of the week over Mason Rudolph. Give me Mitch Trubisky any day of the week over Dwayne Haskins. Has Dwayne Haskins won 4 games in this league? 5? At least Mitch Trubisky's won a division. At least just 2 years later, he got to the playoffs after it looked like his team was dead in the water. I forgot what their record was, but at the time when he took back over, it's like nobody's saying about the Bears, the playoff contender, and they scratched and clawed their way up the standings, moved past Arizona, and got in. To their credit. So I think this is a really good move by the Steelers. I really do. I mean, look, we're talking about a guy that, dating back to that 2018 season, completion percentage is really good, right? 66%, 63%, and 67%. That's good. Like that's not he's not dealing with an accuracy issue. Now, can he push the ball down the field? Not really. It's going to be a little dink and dunk. But to be fair, it's not like the Steelers have a ton of deep threats. So, can the Steelers contend for a playoff spot? I'm not sold on that. But hey, if the goal of the season is to compete, to be respectable, to contend for a playoff spot, that last playoff spot like they did this year, and to keep Mike Tomlin's, never having had a losing season streak alive, it's a good guy to do it. It is. By the way, quickly got some breaking news from Ian Rappaport. Wow, this is a significant one. Ian Rappaport, we got some breaking news here. He says the Cowboys are giving DeMarcus Lawrence a new deal, source said. Okay, it's a 3-year deal with $30 million fully guaranteed to stay in Dallas. Wow. So I'm sure we'll get some new information over the coming hours and days, but that surprises me that they go from probably going to cut DeMarcus Lawrence to they asked him for a pay cut, he refused, and so they give him a new contract. So I don't know if they're just ripping up the current one, and they're saying, okay, it's going to be less money, but $30 million is fully guaranteed. That's what Kirk Cousins did yesterday. By the way, I want Kirk Cousins' agent. I really do. Kirk Cousins is no bum. He's a absolute upper tier quarterback in the NFL. He had great numbers last year, but I want his agent. That's not a $35 million quarterback. That's like a $27-8 million quarterback. But props to Kirk and his agent. But that's I take that for the Cowboys, right? You keep your defensive line strong. Get DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. Does Randy Gregory come back? It's very possible they brought back DeMarcus Lawrence because they thought Randy Gregory could leave. But if Randy Gregory does leave, this is a great deal for the Cowboys because give you somebody on the other side of Micah Parsons that you got to respect, you got to account for. He played well after coming back from his foot injury, so I like the deal for the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm telling you, what an offseason spin for the NFL. What a last week. Like I said a week ago, after the Russell Wilson deal came down, that was one of the best decisions I've ever made in the history of the show to take the week off 2 weeks ago because not really much happened. The Kyler Murray story was relevant and people were talking about James Harden, Joel Embiid. Outside of that, nothing was really going on in sports. Now, this is awesome. This is like second to the NFL season. I mean, NFL season, you're not short on topics. This feels like that now. But let's look at March Madness is beginning on Thursday. Well, I think it technically begins tomorrow with the first four, but it officially begins not millions of games, but all these games simultaneously are going back and forth. You're watching your phone, your computer, your TV, and if you're somebody that's got like 6 TVs in your house, congratulations. You're probably you're in good shape to watch the first and second rounds of March Madness, which will play out Thursday through Sunday. But it is a pretty darn good bracket. And like I said before I get into my final 4 predictions, can I please reiterate, please, the Tennessee Volunteers were screwed being the number 3 seed. I'm not saying that as a Vols fan, okay? Because y'all know, especially when it comes to Tennessee football, I am the most objective Vols fan on the face of this earth, okay? I've always been consistent on that. But we are talking about a team that, today, the AP poll came out, the top 25. Yeah, Tennessee was ranked 5th in the country. 5th. Well, how could they be 5th but a 3 seed? The math of that really doesn't add up. So we're talking about a team that, hold on a second, went undefeated at home, beat Arizona, who's a number 1 seed today. Arizona's a number 1 seed. Second-ranked team in America. They beat Arizona. Let's see. They beat Kentucky, and they're one of the top 2 seeds. They beat Kentucky twice. They beat Auburn, and they're one of the top 2 seeds. And they won the SEC tournament and did it quite convincingly. And the SEC has multiple teams in the tournament. So how could Tennessee be a 3 seed? I don't know. Just throwing that out there. But we've got a great bracket because when you look at March Madness typically how it goes. You'll have a 1 seed get upset usually around the Sweet 16, and then you'll have like the 3 left going into the Elite 8. Then one of them will get upset, and you'll have like you usually have 2 number 1 seeds, sometimes 3, but normally 2 going into the Final Four. And so I looked at the bracket. I haven't filled my bracket out. I may do something on the show along those lines, but my initial predictions for the Final Four are this. I think with Chet Holmgren, who very well could be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft in a few months, I think with Chet Holmgren, Mark Few, we know how great of a coach he is. I think Gonzaga once again gets back to the Final Four out of the West. Okay, so Gonzaga gets to the Final Four. I think looking down from there, I'm going to take Kansas to get at their end of the bracket. Okay, because Kansas, they're playing unbelievable basketball. They won the Big 12 tournament. They got beat badly by Kentucky, earlier this season, but since then they played unbelievable basketball. I think Kansas is the other number 1 seed that gets out. Looking down the bracket from there, I think Villanova. Not Villanova. I think Tennessee wins the South and gets to the Final Four. I've said all season long, I felt like this was an Elite 8 team, but I could see Arizona getting beat by possibly Illinois, who's on that side of the bracket. But I've said all year, this is the best Tennessee team that Rick Barnes has ever had. I know my fellow Vols fans, we like to talk about the Grant Williams, and I'm sorry if I'm talking over your head. If you're not a Tennessee fan, I apologize. But you're talking about the Grant Williams, who's currently playing good basketball with the Boston Celtics. All he did was win 2 SEC Player of the Year awards. Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, and guys like Jordan Bone, Lamonte Turner, and Kyle Alexander. And I'm getting really nostalgic right now. The point is, those were some really good teams. At one point, Tennessee was number 1 in the country just a few years ago. But the ceiling on that team, I never felt like was national champion. I never felt like okay, this team out of 64 could be the last one standing. I thought they could get to the Final Four, but I was never like, they'll be cutting down the nets when it's all said and done. This Tennessee team can. Because first of all, you've got a point guard who I'm going to tell y'all right now, I'm going to put the world on notice. Kennedy Chandler is going to be a multi-time All-Star in the National Basketball Association. He is gifted. If you've never seen Kennedy Chandler, Google his highlights on YouTube. Now, he needs to improve his free throw shooting. But other than that, as quick a point guard as I've ever seen in college since Kyrie Irving. That's my comp for him. He reminds me a lot of Kyrie Irving in his game. Great ball handler, excellent finisher, good three-point shooter. Okay, the rest of the Tennessee roster, we're talking about guys like Santiago Vescovi, right? Great three-point shooter. First team All-SEC. Okay, you're talking about guys, Josiah Jordan-James, excellent three-point shooter, great defensive player. By the way, Tennessee was a top 5 defensive team in the country. The little Bulldogs, Zakai Ziegler out of New York City. They always say, New York, Chicago, they put some tough kids out there in the NBA. Well, Zakai Ziegler from New York. Is he from Brooklyn? I forgot what. No, I'm sorry. He's from Queens. He's from Queens, New York. So he's tough, plays his tail off, good shooter for his size, a solid rebounder. He's only 5'9". Great three-point shooter, excellent defensive player for his size. You look at guys down the roster like John Fulkerson, who's been there for I think about 30 years or so, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just kidding. No, he's a 6-year senior. It just feels like he's been there forever. You look down the roster, guys like Plazic, who's a good 7-footer, rebounding guy. So Tennessee's roster is stacked. It is deep. And this is a team, Hatfield, I'm telling you, Tennessee's going to the Final Four. And the other, the other side of the bracket, I would probably say, because they're the defending national champions, Baylor. So my early, and this could change, I think I'm going to do like a bracket special at some point and carving it up live before the tournament really begins on Thursday. That's kind of my early Final Four. Gonzaga, Kansas. I really like Kansas to possibly win the championship. Baylor and Tennessee. That's my early Final Four. What happens before that? We'll see. I'll fill out my brackets just like I'm sure a lot of you already have. But listen, March Madness is going to be awesome. Now, the women's bracket. South Carolina lost in the SEC championship game to Kentucky in a shocker. South Carolina, Dawn Staley is one of the best coaches in America. I know there's teams like LSU. The Lady Vols had a good year this year, finished in the top 25. I'd say Tennessee wins 2 games, gets to the Sweet 16. I don't think they go any further than that, although I think they're going the right direction. I'll say to win the women's national championship, I will go with, I think they'll finally break through this year. They were once a dynasty. I'll take UConn. Why? Because obviously we know about Geno. Right? We know how good he is. But Paige Beckers is all that. Excellent shooter, excellent ball handler, plays good defense. Great leader. She's going to be excellent in the WNBA when she gets there. I will say UConn breaks through. They had a little bit of an up and down year, but that was because she was injured. She comes back. She's been playing well, and I think UConn women's basketball will get back to the top for the first time since 2016. It's been a long drought, I tell you, for those Huskies. But UConn wins the women's championship, and I'm leaning Kansas wins the men's championship. That's kind of where I'm at. It could be a Kansas versus Baylor scenario in the national championship. We could have a Big 12 on Big 12 national championship game. It'd be a great advertisement for the conference because they're about to lose Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. So a lot of storylines, man. But I'm telling you, I've never loved a Vols team like this one ever, not in the slightest. But look, a lot going on in NFL free agency, and it is going to be fun. I cannot wait to see what happens, and it's gonna be crazy. March Madness in NFL free agency, and March Madness in the NCAA tournament. Our final topic of the day. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Most of the show was about Tom Brady, as it should be, because that news caught everybody off guard. My Golden State Warriors. Now, a week ago on the show, our first show back since the break, I went in a big Warriors rant. They had just lost their 4th straight game to the Los Angeles Lakers, the atrocious Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not going to spend more than 10 seconds on these bums because they got smoked by Phoenix last night. Point is, we lost to them. 4 straight losses, but playing bad basketball. Clay couldn't throw it in the ocean. Steph was up and down. You look at guys down the roster. Jordan Poole, you weren't sure what you were going to get, although I trusted him to be him more to be in the closing lineup than Klay Thompson. On down. Toscano Anderson was playing bad. Gary Payton II was injured. And so I'm like, I don't know. Whoops. I'll hit some in the background. But Wiggins was playing bad offensively. It's like, gosh, we got to get this thing together if we want to contend for a championship and win a championship like I predicted we would do last summer. And that night, they lost to the Denver Nuggets. 5th straight loss. But Steph didn't play, Wiggins didn't play, Clay didn't play. And a little funny thing happened on Tuesday. Jackie Moon showed up, obviously played by Will Ferrell. Showed up. We have yet to lose since. We smoked the Clippers on Tuesday. We had a big comeback win that I talked about on Friday. Steph went berserk in the 3rd quarter, and we won that game against the Denver Nuggets on Thursday. And then on Sunday against the defending NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks in a game that I believe is going to be a finals preview. I think these 2 teams are going to meet in June, albeit Milwaukee was missing Brook Lopez. Golden State with Steph Curry, who scored 8 points and took 7 shots. Golden State won that basketball game by 15 points over the defending NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks. That is with Giannis Antetokounmpo on the floor, the best player in the world in my opinion. And Chris Middleton on the floor. Drew Holiday was out there. And a number of other their key players. And Golden State controlled that game. Really, it was close in the 1st quarter, and then they just pulled away from the 2nd quarter on after that. They've won 3 straight games. They play the Washington Wizards tonight. And normally, I wouldn't talk about Golden State playing the Wizards tonight. They'll win that game. They're at home. They're the best home team in basketball. But I got to ask him, man, when is Draymond Green going to come back? Like, I've been trying to check and see, like, with these Warriors insiders, Steve Kerr, that they've been asking him, like, hey, when's Draymond going to be back? He hasn't played since January. I believe January 5th was the last time Draymond Green played an NBA basketball game. It's like, man, like I've said on the show, we have to have Draymond Green. Have to. If there's no Draymond, there's no championship. Heck, I'm not sure if you win more than a series in the NBA playoffs. Well, let me ask. Actually, I'll do this. I'll ask Draymond himself. Hey, Draymond, any chance that you are coming back tonight?
Yeah.
He back. Draymond Green is back tonight as a member of the Golden State Warriors. He will be back from his injury, from his, I believe it was a calf strain. I'm sorry, it was a back injury, which is a little concerning considering that he's only 32 years of age. But nevertheless, he's back in the starting lineup with Klay Thompson, with Steph Curry. The last time that they shared the court together was June 13th of 2019. Of course, that was Game 6 of the finals. Klay Thompson tore his ACL in the third quarter of that game, and they lost to the Raptors, and the Raptors won the championship that night in the final game at the historic Oracle Arena. But the three amigos, as I call them, they will be on the floor together. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Now, Wiggins may not play. Iguodala still is yet to return from his injury. James Wiseman should be back, I would think, in a week. He's looked great in the G League games. And all indications are he's going to be back with the team pretty soon. So that'll be a boost for them in terms of size. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is take-off time for the Golden State Warriors because they've got their core three back. Draymond's back. We know with Draymond Green, the Golden State Warriors are what? 28 wins, 6 losses. Without him, they're 3 games over 500. Now, this 3-game winning streak kind of helped that. But they need Draymond Green to win a championship. And they have him back tonight. They'll have him for the rest of the regular season. Knock on wood that nobody gets hurt going into the postseason in mid-April. And after that, take off time. They will jump Memphis. They play Memphis later this month on March 28th. That is the biggest game of both teams' season. It's going to be on NBA TV. They should flex that to ESPN, in my opinion. But Golden State and Memphis will play in about, it's the 18th. So 2 weeks from today, they will play. Golden State will win that. They will hang on to that number 2 seed. Obviously, they're not catching Phoenix. Nobody's catching Phoenix in the West. But they'll get the 2 seed, as I said they would before the year started, and then it will be takeoff time. Because Steph, he's finding his rhythm. He had a bad game against the Bucks, but he didn't have to play well. Jordan Poole scored 30, and Klay Thompson, all he did was score 38 points and hit, I believe, was it 8 3-pointers that he hit against the Bucks? So Klay looks like Klay, and that's without Draymond. So a Draymond who is the anchor of Golden State's defense, who sets up Steph as well as better than anybody who's ever played in a Warriors uniform, who sets up Klay better than anybody who's ever played in a Warriors uniform. The Warriors are finally about to find their stride. They had a little rough patch in January and especially in February. They did not play good basketball by their standards at all in the month of February. But they get the core 3 back. They'll beat Washington tonight. They got a big game against Boston on Wednesday. They'll go from there. And look, Memphis is the game of the year. You beat Memphis a couple of weeks from tonight, and you'll be sitting pretty. You will be the number 2 seed. Probably play after the play-in tournament is over, either the Timberwolves or the Clippers. If Kawhi Leonard is not back, if Paul George even is not back, they'll probably beat the Clippers out of respect for LA because they have a great culture. Obviously, I'm about the Clippers, not the Lakers. Clippers have a good culture. Ty Lue's a great coach. I'll say the Warriors would win that series in 5 games. I'd say Steph or Klay would have a bad shooting night in one of those games at the Crypto.com arena, and the Clippers would win either the games 3 or 4, but the Golden State Warriors would close it out in 5. And then after that, you'd play Memphis, and then the conference finals, you would play either the Suns or possibly Dallas. I've said out west, guys. I've said all season long, it's a 2-team race. It's the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. I had that as the number 1 and number 2 seed, respectfully, going into the season. And like I said last week, I'm adding another team to that mix, the Dallas Mavericks, because Luka Doncic, last 2 playoffs, has averaged 33 points a game. against the Clippers, and he gets Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, Luka was the best player on the court in both series with no help on either end of the floor. Didn't have anybody else who could get their own shot. Didn't have anybody, he deserves a little bit of blame for this, but didn't have anybody who could get a stop. Well, now they do. Jason Kidd, who I didn't like the Jason Kidd hiring at all. Hey, I'm wrong. Jason Kidd's done a remarkable job with the Dallas Mavericks. Luka's going to do Luka things in the postseason. Spencer Dinwiddie's playing well. They have some size in Kleba and guys like that. So Dallas is a team to watch out for. Like, they're a team that could upset Phoenix in the second round. Like, they could. Depending on Chris Paul's health, Dallas could upset Phoenix. I'd still take the Suns, but that'd probably be a 7-game series. But as for my Warriors, we are going to be just fine. I got good news. I hope John is still in the comments. I don't know if he is or not. And my man Alfred is a Jets fan. The Jets got a good signing here, according to Ian Rappaport. According to him, the Jets are signing former Bengals tight end C.J. Uzomah to a 3-year deal worth $24 million per himself and per Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo. So there you go. There's some more free agency news. And yep. So Zach Wilson gets a target. I know my man John yesterday, we were on Instagram Live talking about free agency. He said, how about we go get Zach Ertz? You didn't get Zach Ertz. He's staying with Arizona, but you are getting C.J. Uzomah, who had a great year before getting injured with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a big loss for Cincinnati. One thing I will say about Cincinnati, though, throughout the early stages of free agency, they are doing what I've been begging them to do for 2 years. As somebody, I'm not a Bengals fan, but I don't like seeing quarterbacks hurt, and I darn sure don't like seeing star quarterbacks hurt. And actually, to a further degree, superstars, because Joe Burrow's not a star quarterback. He's a superstar. He's one of the 5 best in football. I don't like seeing Joe Burrow on the ground. I don't like seeing him grab his knee and wincing. I hate that. They're finally addressing their offensive line a little bit. So, and hopefully they continue to do that in the draft and moving forward from there. But yeah, good signing by the Jets, getting C.J. Uzomah, and free agency news will just continue to roll in. It's going to be fun. Thursday, I said on Friday's show, I said Monday's going to be crazy. I don't know. I had a feeling something was going to happen this weekend. Could have never imagined that. But I'll say it on the end of this show. Something's going to happen before Thursday. Because March Madness will have kicked off. And we got some great content for you guys before then. So with that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Thursday, as always, at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. Be sure to also catch Carving It Up on social media, at Carving It Up Podcast on Instagram, at Carving It Up Pod on Twitter, and on Facebook, search Bryson Carver, and you should see the Carving It Up Live logo right there. And if you've been listening to the Carving It Up podcast, we appreciate that as well. You've been listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. So till Thursday, hope everybody has a great week. Continue to stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. Dang, my balls were screwed. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.